اليوم اجيت تلبية لنداء المرجعية والتطوع من ضمن صفوف الجيش العراقي، واحنا بخدمة هالبلد للقتال ان شاء الله في صفوفهم والنصر ان شاء الله.
You know, terrorists from Syria have been pouring into Iraq, and they've conquered half the country in days. They bring an Islamic theocracy with them, and along with that, mass executions and Sharia law. And they boast about it on social media websites. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, also known as ISIS, has slaughtered nearly 2,000 Iraqi soldiers over the weekend alone. Meanwhile, Iraq's Ministry of Defense has released this video of airstrikes against ISIS. So what can be done to repel the terrorists? Why hasn't America helped to keep what it bought at such a dear price in Iraq? Does President Obama think it can negotiate with these terrorists like he did with the Taliban recently? Or does he think that Iran could step in to help the U.S. by securing Iraq for themselves? Well, to help us figure this all out, Michael Rubin, he's an American Enterprise Institute resident scholar and author of the book Dancing with the Devil, The Perils of Engaging Rogue Regimes. He joins us with more from Washington. Dr. Rubin, welcome back to the show. I find this confusing because I see news on Twitter, so I don't know how veritable it is, that Iran has sent a military leader to meet with the Iraqi government. We've got a picture of it, the head of the Quds Brigade, and Iraq seems to be accepting Iranian troops on its soil to repel these terrorists. Is this just in the fog of war a rumor, or is it Iraq realizing it can't count on America, so it better side with the regional superpower?
I hate to say it, Ezra, but it's the latter. But this isn't the first time Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force, has come into Iraq. When I was there earlier this year, Iraqis were joking that I had started in Baghdad and continued on to Kurdistan, and I was following the exact same itinerary that this Iranian military leader had followed. That said, both Iran and the United States have an interest in defeating ISIS, sort of the way that an arsonist and a firefighter both have an interest in the fire. Unfortunately, John Kerry and President Obama don't see it in that way.
Now, I want to pull the camera back 30,000 feet a little bit and look at it in terms of regional powers. I remember a short year ago when Barack Obama claimed or threatened or even announced he was going to launch the missiles and attacks at Bashar Assad in Syria. And it started to fall apart for various reasons. And then Vladimir Putin, the enemy of Obama by various measures, put himself forward to save Obama embarrassment. So Putin said, oh, don't worry, big guy. I'll fix the problem. I'll ensure that they're disarmed. So Putin, who actually was the arms dealer of Syria, did Obama a political favor by solving the problem. I see the same thing. Obama doesn't want to go in for various reasons. He declared the war over. He withdrew the troops. He doesn't want to get involved. And so Iran, America's sworn enemy, says, oh, don't you worry, Barack Obama. We can be allies. We can help you out. And even though it's an absurd form of help, Iran claiming for itself what America bought, maybe Obama will take it as sign of his, quote, victory. This is too terrible to even think about, but I think it's happening.
I agree with you, Ezra. I mean, the problem isn't getting Iran into Iraq. The problem is getting them out. Remember, Iran helped insert Hezbollah into Lebanon in 1982, and even 14 years after Israel's final withdrawal from Lebanon, Hezbollah is still terrorizing Lebanon. The fact of the matter is, Iran is expansionistic through these proxy militias and like that. But the basic problem with Barack Obama is he looks at military power as just an arrow in his quiver, a policy option, and he sees his predecessors as engaging in wars of choice. He doesn't understand that American power has been the figurative finger in the dike holding back the deluge of chaos for a generation, and that's why we're seeing the same sort of unilateral actions on the part of our enemies in the Crimea, in the South China Sea, and now in Iraq itself.
You know, it's almost as if the dam was about to burst. It was about to burst, and then boom, all of a sudden, everywhere it's spilling over. You mentioned China, I mean, with its moves on Vietnam. And I mean, really, is there any country in the world now that fears America, with the possible exception of the one country America still berates for foreign policy reasons, I'm referring to Israel. And I suppose America isn't too friendly to Canada's oil pipeline. But other than those two allies, is there anyone in the world that is worried when Barack Obama shakes his fist? He doesn't even shake his fist. Is America holding anyone back?
No, America absolutely is not. What we're actually seeing is what happens when America pulls back from the world. What President Obama and the left have never realized is it's not going to be altruistic forces which fill the vacuum. The fact of the matter is American leadership is on retreat, and every rogue nation is looking at the example of another and figuring that now is the time when we can get away with it. What's going on in Iraq is bad enough. I'm worried about what happens when North Korea gets clued in, or when Argentina decides, hey, look, we didn't get the Falklands in 1982, but this is a different era, an age of Obama, and Las Malvinas can be ours now.
Yeah, you know what? And you don't have to look too far away. Venezuela, with impunity, is crushing its democratic protesters without a peep from Washington. What's John Kerry doing? I mean, he was on the wrong side of history in so many ways, denouncing America for the world's delectation 30 years ago. I don't know if he has an ideology, if he has his own worldview, if he's following it, or if he's just happy to have a cool job where he jets around the world to fancy hotels. Is he a man with his own foreign policy views, or is he just basically doing whatever Obama instructs him to do?
Ezra, you've got to understand, for example, when it comes to American foreign assistance, the metric is dollars spent, not what's achieved. When it comes to John Kerry, his measure of effectiveness for being Secretary of State is frequent flyer miles, not any sort of achievement. Unfortunately, that's been the case in our State Department for quite some time. The absolute goal of John Kerry and what he sees to build his legacy is having one more frequent flyer mile than Hillary Clinton did. Then he can claim to be the most traveled Secretary of State ever. That he achieved absolutely nothing in the world went backwards under his watch. That's just neither here nor there.
Well, that's what's so incredible. I mean, earlier in the show, I talked about Hillary Clinton's book, Hard Choices. I have no doubt that the choices were hard, but either the choices weren't made or the wrong choices were made. I cannot think of one regional problem that is better now than when Clinton and Obama took over 5 years ago. I mean, listen, I am a partisan in many ways. I despise the Obama-Clinton regime, not for any reason other than it's been a disaster. I think there's a good reason. But am I missing something? Is there one part of the world that has improved with American intervention in the last 5 years? Can you name one?
No, I cannot name one. Ultimately, if there's just one thing I wish this administration would do and get through their collective heads, it's that this idea of terrorism and these rogue states aren't motivated by grievance. They can't be bought off. The problem is an ideology we need to face, and the more we ignore that, the more dangerous the world becomes.
Dr. Rubin, thank you for joining us. You've confirmed all my bad news that I was thinking about. I think we're in for dark days ahead, dark years ahead, in fact. Thanks for being with us.